Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at someone who's really shaped our world, Bill Gates. First tech, now philanthropy.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're focusing tightly on a specific source. It's an excerpt from a biography.
Right. So the goal isn't the entire life story, is it?
No, not at all. It's about extracting the key insights, the main takeaways, just from this particular piece of writing, understanding the moments and factors it emphasizes.
Got it. Kind of the highlights reel, according to this one source. So where does it kick things off?
Starts right from the beginning. Born William Henry Gates III, October 28, 1955, Seattle. Grew up in Medina, which is, an upper middle class area near Seattle.
And his parents, the source mentions them, they sound pretty accomplished.
Oh, definitely. William H. Gates II, a prominent lawyer, and his mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, a major community figure, first woman on the board of First Interstate Bank of Washington, first female chair of United Way International. So, yeah. Big deal.
Wow, so high expectations maybe. But the source also mentions they worried about him a bit as a kid.
It does. Apparently, he was often bored in regular school, kind of withdrawn. They encouraged excellence. Intellectual stuff, sure, but they were genuinely concerned about his social development.
Okay, so what did they do?
Well, the source frames this as a really key decision. They enrolled him in Lakeside School, a prestigious private prep school in Seattle. The idea was, give him a more challenging environment.
And Lakeside, that's where the computer stuff started, right?
Bingo. 1967. He's 13. The school gets this teletype machine linked to a mainframe. And, well, that was it for him.
Hooked immediately.
Totally. Started programming in BASIC. The source paints this picture of him and his friend Paul Allen, just glued to this machine, spending hours and hours coding.
Skipping classes even.
Sometimes, yeah. Just completely obsessed with figuring it out.
That intense focus so early on. And the source mentions their first little venture too, Traf-O data.
It does. Analyzing traffic data. Wasn't really a commercial hit, the source notes, but crucial experience. Building something, working together.
And there's that great story about getting banned from the computer.
Yeah, he exploited a bug, got kicked off the system, but then he actually negotiated his way back on.
How?
Offered to find more bugs for them in exchange for more computer time. Shows that, resourcefulness, that drive.
Even then. Incredible. So by the time he graduates Lakeside in 73...
He's already a skilled programmer. Near perfect SAT score to 1590 out of 1600. Academically bright, obviously, but also deeply immersed in this tech world already.
So the foundation's definitely there. Then off to Harvard in 73. Computer science, math. That was the plan.
That was the plan. But, according to the source, the actual classes, well, they didn't hold his attention quite like coding did.
Less engaging than the hands-on stuff.
Seems so. And then came this really pivotal moment described in the source. January 75, he reads Popular Electronics magazine.
And sees the Altair 8800, the first microcomputer kit.
Exactly. And apparently, he and Paul Allen immediately saw the potential. A computer for individuals, sort of.
And they jumped on it.
Yeah, in a pretty bold way. This is another example of that audacity this source highlights. He contacts MIT's, the company making the Altair.
Okay.
And tells them he and Allen have a basic interpreter ready for their machine.
But they didn't, right? Not yet.
Nope, not finished at all. It was a bluff, basically, a calculated risk, as the source puts it, to get their attention.
Wow. Did it work?
It did. Led to a frantic coding session, then a successful demonstration down in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And that was the birth of Microsoft.
That was it, 1975, initially called Microsoft.
And this new company, it took precedence over Harvard.
Completely. The source notes he dropped out during his junior year. Risky, obviously, but it says his parents actually supported it. They saw how committed he was.
So Microsoft's first product is this Altair Basic. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The source mentions piracy.
Oh yeah, big time. Hobbyists back then, they were just freely sharing software, copying tapes. It was a real problem for a tiny company trying to, actually sell its product.
Must have been frustrating. How did that shape things, according to the source?
It really taught Gates a crucial lesson, the source emphasizes, about the importance of protecting intellectual property, about needing a sustainable business model, not just giving stuff away. It influenced how he thought about software licensing later.
Which brings us to that massive IBM deal in 1980. The source flags this as huge.
Absolutely monumental. IBM needed an operating system for their upcoming personal computer, the IBM PC. Microsoft got the deal to provide it, MS-DOS.
Okay, getting the IBM deal is obviously big, but the source highlights something specific about that deal, right? The licensing.
Yes, this is presented as the absolute masterstroke. Gates insisted that Microsoft retain the rights to license MS-DOS to other computer manufacturers.
Ah, so not exclusive to IBM.
Exactly. IBM was focused on their hardware. Microsoft, by holding on to those licensing rights, could sell MS-DOS to anyone making an IBM-compatible PC.
And suddenly everyone starts making IBM clones.
And Microsoft is providing the operating system for almost all of them. That one decision, the source argues, basically set the stage for Microsoft's dominance in the PC software market. Just foundational.
That makes sense. Wow. Okay, so MS-DOS sets the stage. Then, 1985, Microsoft Windows arrives, inspired by Apple's Mac, the source says.
Yeah, the graphical user interface, the GUI. But the source positions Windows as revolutionary in its own right because it made PCs so much easier to use for, well, everyone, not just techies. Moving beyond that command line prompt. Right. Point and click. It opened up computing to a vastly wider audience.
And under Gates, Microsoft just took off, became the biggest PC software company in the world.
Exploded. The source mentions the IPO in 1986, made Gates a billionaire at 31, youngest self-made one at the time.
And the wealth just kept growing. Sent to billionaire status in 99, richest person for years and years.
Yeah, Forbes had him as the world's richest for 18 of the 24 years between 95 and 2017, according to this source. And Windows plus Microsoft Office, they just became essential everywhere.
That famous vision, a computer on every desk and in every home. The source sees that as a real driver.
Very much so. It suggests this wasn't just marketing speak. It genuinely drove the company's strategy, pushing to make technology more accessible, more affordable, and ultimately ubiquitous. It changed everything.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The source does cover struggles and challenges too.
Oh, sure. It mentions those early things like trafo data fizzling out, the piracy battles. Also points out later on, Microsoft kind of lagging in internet search against Google.
But the really big one it focuses on is the antitrust lawsuit, right? US versus Microsoft in 1998.
Yeah, that was a huge deal. The accusation was monopolistic practices. The source describes it as incredibly serious. It notes the government initially won, and the ruling nearly split Microsoft into 3 separate companies.
Wow, 3 companies. I didn't realize it got that close.
According to this source, yeah. But Microsoft's legal team fought back hard and won on appeal, keeping the company intact.
But it must have taken a toll. The source mentions personal criticism around this time too, being called ruthless.
It does. It connects that perception to Microsoft's aggressive business tactics, acquiring competitors, pushing hard in the market. That intense drive for success had a flip side in how rivals and parts of the public saw him.
And personally, the source touches on the impact of that famous work ethic.
Yeah, the incredibly long hours, the intense focus. The source notes it reportedly strained relationships. It mentions his marriage to Melinda French in 1994 brought more balance.
But it also notes their divorce in 2021 as a significant personal challenge later on.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
Acknowledges that as a major difficulty.
And more recently, the source mentions the whole COVID-19 situation, the conspiracy theories.
Right. Unfounded stuff about microchips and vaccines, things like that. The source in Untold Gates dismissed it all as, crazy oversimplifications.
And it highlights the downside of being that famous, right?
Exactly. Being such a public figure, especially involved in global health, made him a target for misinformation, particularly during a confusing, scary time like the pandemic. It shows the challenges of that level of profile.
Okay, so let's shift gears. Because the source describes a major evolution in his focus, right? After the computer on every desk vision was largely achieved, then what?
Well, the source suggests his attention started turning towards global inequalities, things he was seeing around the world. It wasn't totally out of the blue, though.
How so?
It mentions his parents had always emphasized giving back, community service. That value was instilled early on, apparently.
And that led to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2000.
Precisely. He and Melinda co-founded it. And this marked a huge shift, applying that same intensity, those analytical skills, that wealth, towards massive global problems.
What kind of problems?
The source highlights global health, education, alleviating poverty. It's framed as moving from that tech dream to a humanitarian one.
And the impact. The source gives examples.
Oh, yes. Big ones. Like the foundation helping vaccinate over 760 million children, playing a major role in nearly eradicating polio. The scale is just staggering.
And the money involved?
The source cites a lifetime grant total of $77.6 billion by 2023. Just enormous sums directed at these issues.
And it mentions his pledge to give away most of his fortune.
Yeah, the giving pledge. His kids will inherit only a small fraction. The source attributes a core belief to him here, that money has no utility beyond a certain point.
Interesting. So that's the driving force behind the philanthropy.
That and what the source calls the deeper dream, creating a world where all lives have equal value. That's presented as the ultimate goal. His work during COVID, pledging $125 million for vaccine development, is shown as part of that mission.
And he keeps learning, keeps communicating. The Gates Notes blog.
Yeah, sharing book lists, thoughts on different issues. That curiosity, that drive to learn and figure things out, it seems like it never stopped. It just got pointed at different targets.
So if we look at this whole arc, just based on this source material, what are the big takeaways? The source tries to distill some lessons, right?
It does. And one that really comes through right from that lakeside moment is the power of, well, genuine passion.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
Those 10,000 hours of coding before he was 20.
Exactly. The source implies it wasn't just practice, it was deep, obsessive engagement because he was fascinated. So lesson 1, find that thing that grabs you and just dive in, master it.
Okay. What else?
Taking calculated risks. We talked about the MIT's call, dropping out of Harvard.
Yeah.
The source presents these not as wild bets, but as bold moves made with conviction because he believed in the outcome.
So assess the risk, but don't be afraid to leap if you believe.
Something like that. And then there's just sheer hard work, dedication. That relentless work ethic is portrayed as absolutely key. It wasn't just smarts, it was the hours, the focus.
Right. Deep work and collaboration. He didn't do it alone.
No way. Partnering with Paul Allen, bringing in Steve Ballmer later. Building a strong team with complementary skills is highlighted as crucial. You need good people around you.
Makes sense. What about setbacks? Learning from failure?
Big one. Trafo data, the piracy issues, even the antitrust fight. The source suggests these were treated as learning opportunities. It even mentions Gates saw unhappy customers as a source of valuable feedback. Adapt, learn, improve.
Don't let failure stop you. Learn from it. And getting people to buy into your idea.
Vision and communication. Being able to clearly articulate that computer on every desk, vision, persuading IBM, motivating the company. That's vital, according to the source. You need to communicate effectively to rally people.
And continuous learning, reading constantly.
Definitely. The source emphasizes him being an avid reader, always absorbing information. Stay curious, self-educate, seek out different perspectives. It's presented as essential for adapting and growing.
Which then feeds into that final point from the source, giving back with impact, using success for something bigger.
Exactly. The philanthropy. The lesson there is about leveraging success, whatever form it takes, to tackle big challenges and contribute to society. Finding purpose beyond just the initial achievement.
The source also sums up some of the highs and lows pretty directly, doesn't it? Joys and sorrows.
Yeah, the joys are kind of what you'd expect. Seeing that computing vision realized, Microsoft's success, marriage and family, and then the fulfillment from the foundation's work.
And the sorrows it lists.
The antitrust battle looms large there, the personal pain of the divorce, and dealing with that intense public scrutiny and the conspiracy theories later on.
So pulling it all together, this deep dive, based purely on this one biographical excerpt, it shows this incredible journey. Kid obsessed with computers, intense focus, big risks, building a global tech giant facing huge challenges.
And then pivoting that same energy and massive wealth towards tackling global health and poverty with just enormous scale and ambition. It's quite an arc presented here.
Absolutely. A story as told by this source of ambition, strategy, hard work, learning from mistakes, and this really interesting evolution of purpose. The moments the source chooses to highlight really illustrate those driving principles.
They do. It provides a specific, focused lens on his path.
And thinking about that path, from the fierce drive to put a computer everywhere to this massive philanthropic push based on the idea that all lives have equal value and money loses utility past a point. It really makes you wonder, based only on this account, what does this journey suggest about that interplay between creating immense wealth, finding personal purpose, and trying to make a real difference in the world? Definitely something to think about.